I'm Scarlett, and at 58, my life has been a quiet one, built around the things I know best: books, order, and the soft hum of the university library where I've worked for decades. I've always liked it that way, neat rows of shelves, every story tucked into its place, just like me. No husband, no kids, just the rhythm of my days ticking along like a metronome. I never thought I'd be the type to step out of that rhythm, but some nights sneak up on you, unraveling everything you thought you knew about yourself. That's what happened to me last May, on an evening I'll never forget. It was a warm night in 2025, and I was at a retirement party for one of the old English professors. The faculty lounge was all wood-paneled walls and dim chandeliers, the air thick with the scent of coffee and a hint of bourbon. I'd slipped into a navy dress that felt a little too tight around the shoulders, my graying hair pinned back, a glass of cheap wine in my hand that I didn't even want. The room buzzed with chatter, professors swapping stories, laughter bouncing off the walls, and I was ready to slip out. My feet ached from standing too long, and I needed air. I stepped onto the balcony, letting the noise fade behind me as the campus lights twinkled below like stars caught in the grass. "Leaving so soon, Scarlett?" The voice came from behind me, low and familiar. I turned to see Henry, tall, silver-haired, wearing a tweed jacket that looked like it had been through a few too many semesters. At 65, he was a retired history professor, a widower who'd lost his wife 5 years back. I'd known him for years, back when he'd stop by the library with a coffee in hand and a dry quip about some obscure battle. He wasn't loud or flashy, just steady, like the oak trees lining the campus paths. "Just needed a breather," I said, offering a small smile. He stepped up beside me, hands in his pockets, gazing out at the night. "These things wear me out," he admitted, his voice carrying that quiet weight I'd always noticed but never lingered on. "Funny," I teased. "You organized half of them back in the day." He chuckled, a warm, rumbling sound, and for a moment it was just us, the world shrinking to the balcony's edge. We stood there, the breeze tugging at my dress, the faint scent of lilacs drifting up from the gardens below. Then he said something I didn't expect. "I'm not ready to call it a night. Care to walk with me?" My stomach did a little flip. It wasn't a big ask. Henry and I had talked plenty over the years about books, campus gossip, the weather. But there was something in his tone, a softness that made my pulse tick up. I hesitated, then nodded. "Sure, why not?" We left the party behind, strolling through the empty campus paths. Fireflies blinked in the distance, and the air felt alive, humming with possibility. We didn't say much at first, just walked, our footsteps syncing up on the cracked pavement. Eventually, we ended up at a little diner off campus, a relic with red vinyl booths and a jukebox, crooning Sinatra in the corner. It was the kind of place that felt frozen in time, untouched by the rush of the world outside. I slid into a booth, ordering coffee while he got a whiskey, the amber liquid catching the dim light as he swirled it in his glass. "You've been here a long time, Scarlett," he said, his hazel eyes settling on me. "Ever think about what might have been if you'd taken a different path?" The question caught me off guard, cutting through the small talk like a knife. I set my mug down, the ceramic warm against my palms. "Every damn day," I admitted, surprised at how easily the words slipped out. "You?" He nodded, staring into his drink. "More than I'd like to admit. After Ellen passed, the house got too quiet. Makes you wonder what you missed chasing the things you thought mattered." I knew he meant his wife, Ellen, the woman he'd loved for 30 years. I'd seen her once or twice, a kind face with laugh lines before the cancer took her. I took a sip of coffee, the bitterness grounding me. "I used to dream about more," I said. "Traveling, maybe. A family. But I got comfortable here. Safe." He looked at me then, really looked, and I felt a shiver I couldn't explain. "Safe's not a bad thing," he said, "but it's not everything." His hand shifted on the table, brushing mine when he reached for the sugar. I didn't pull away. The touch was fleeting, but it lingered under my skin, warm and unexpected. The diner started to empty out, the waitress wiping down counters with a tired sigh. Henry loosened his collar, a gesture I'd never seen from him before, and I noticed the lines on his face, years of grief and laughter etched there like a map. "You've always been a steady one, Scarlett," he said, his voice soft, even when I wasn't. My pulse quickened. "Henry, I'm just the librarian," I said, half laughing it off. He shook his head. "No, you've got this quiet strength. It's kept me grounded more times than you know." The air between us shifted, heavy with something unspoken. I swallowed, my throat dry despite the coffee. "I don't want to go home yet," he said, his voice low, almost a confession. "What about you?" I met his eyes, and for a moment I couldn't look away. "Me neither," and we left the diner, the night wrapping around us like a blanket. He glanced at me as we reached his car, an old sedan parked under a flickering street lamp. "There's a spot by the lake I used to go to," he said. "Quiet. You'd like it." I nodded, and soon we were driving through the dark, the hum of the engine filling the silence. The lake came into view, moonlight glinting off the water, crickets chirping in the distance. We found a bench near the shore and sat, close but not touching, the stillness settling over us like dust. "I've always noticed you," he said suddenly, his voice rough around the edges. "More than I should have, maybe." My breath caught, a sharp little hitch in my chest. "Henry, you were my mentor." He shook his head again, firmer this time. "You're more than that. You've got this way about you. Makes the world feel less unsteady." He reached out, his fingers grazing my wrist, then sliding up to my palm. It wasn't much, just a touch, but it was electric, warmth spreading through me like a slow burn. I leaned closer, our shoulders brushing, the fabric of his jacket rough against my arm. "This could ruin everything," I whispered, my voice trembling. "Or change it," he countered, his breath warm against my cheek. The air hummed, thick with what we weren't saying. I pulled back, heart hammering against my ribs. "You're still grieving. I'm too old for this." He looked at me, steady and sure, his hand lingering on mine. "I'm not asking for forever, Scarlett. Just tonight, just us." I wanted to argue, to list all the reasons this was a bad idea, our history, the university, the years between us. But his touch anchored me, and I didn't pull away. "Henry," I started, but the words died on my lips. He waited, watching me, his eyes searching for something I wasn't sure I could give. But in that moment I wanted to. I let out a slow breath, my voice barely audible. "I don't know where this leads." He gave a small smile, the kind that crinkled the corners of his eyes. "Neither do I, but that doesn't mean we have to run from it." A breeze rustled through the trees, and I shivered, the night air cool against my skin. He noticed, slipping off his jacket and draping it over my shoulders. His scent, faintly spiced cologne, something warm and familiar, wrapped around me, and I pulled it tighter without thinking. "Come on," he said, nodding toward the car. "Let's get you home." I hesitated, glancing back at the lake, the water still and silver under the moon. Part of me wanted to stay, to hold on to this moment, but I nodded. "All right." He drove me back to my little cottage on the edge of town, ivy climbing the walls like it was trying to keep the place a secret. We stopped at the doorstep, and he turned to me, hands back in his pockets. "Tonight meant something," he said, his voice soft but certain. I nodded, my throat tight. "It did." A pause stretched between us, heavy and alive, and then, without overthinking it, I stepped closer. His breath hitched, his eyes searching mine, and then I kissed him. Soft, tentative, tasting of whiskey and possibility. His hand brushed my cheek, careful, reverent, and when I pulled back, my heart was racing. "Good night, Henry," I whispered, stepping inside before I could lose myself completely. The door clicked shut behind me, and I leaned against it, pressing my hand to my chest as if I could slow the pounding. Something had shifted, something big, and I knew it wasn't over. The next morning, I woke to sunlight spilling through my bedroom window, the memory of last night clinging to me like a second skin, his voice, his touch, the way he'd looked at me like I was something worth seeing. My phone buzzed on the nightstand, and I reached for it, still half dazed. "Henry, no regrets?" A small smile tugged at my lips as I typed back, "None." His reply came fast. "You?" I laughed softly to myself. "Not a single one. Can I see you later?" My fingers hovered over the screen, a flicker of doubt creeping in. I wanted to. God, I did. But what did later mean for us? Could we step outside the neat lines we'd lived in for so long? I took a deep breath and typed, "Yes, but we need to talk first." That evening, we met at a quiet cafe just outside town, away from the university's prying eyes. He was already there when I arrived, leaning against the counter with a coffee in hand, his silver hair catching the golden light of the setting sun. "Hey," he said, smiling faintly as I sat across from him. "Hey," I echoed, folding my hands in my lap to keep them still. For a moment we just sat there, the hum of the cafe filling the space between us. Clinking cups, soft chatter, the hiss of the espresso machine. Then I spoke, my voice steadier than I felt. "Henry, I need to know. Where does this go from here?" He exhaled, like he'd been waiting for the question, and set his cup down. "I don't have all the answers," he admitted, his eyes meeting mine. "But I know what I don't want. I don't want last night to be something we pretend never happened." I nodded slowly, twisting the edge of my napkin. "Me neither." He leaned forward, his voice dropping. "Then let's not make this about rules or what's expected. Let's make it about us, whatever that looks like." I swallowed, the weight of his words settling deep. "And work? The university?" He gave a soft chuckle, shaking his head. "I'm retired, Scarlett. I don't care about their gossip, and I'd never let this touch your career. You've built too much for that. If we need boundaries there, we'll figure it out. But I don't want to lose this just because of logistics." His words hit me like a quiet wave, washing away some of the fear I'd been carrying. For so long, I'd let the unknown keep me in place, telling myself I was too old for risks, too set for feelings like this. But here was Henry, standing with me, willing to stumble through it together. I reached across the table, my hand finding his, the roughness of his palm familiar now. "Okay," I said, my voice steady. "Let's see where this goes." The relief in his smile was undeniable, lighting up his face in a way I hadn't seen before. He pulled me into a slow, lingering kiss, the taste of coffee on his lips. And as the evening faded around us, I realized something. This wasn't just a night that took an unexpected turn. It was a beginning, one I wasn't afraid to step into.